Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have a foundation review on the L'Oreal True Match Genius 4-in-1 Compact Foundation. I've been wanting to try this now for a while. It's not newly released or anything like that. It's been out for a good few months, but since it's summer, it's the best time for me to try new foundations, and I can share my thoughts with you guys because I have combination to oily skin, and you guys know the struggle how it is with drugstore foundations. Very rarely they stay put on the skin. Now this retails for £12.99. You can find it available at Boots. I am not entirely sure if it is available at Superdrug, but I will say somewhere over here if it is or if it isn't. It retails for £12.99 and it comes in 6 available shades. Now this foundation is supposed to be a 4-in-1 foundation. As I mentioned before, it's supposed to be a primer, foundation, concealer, and a powder. So it sounds like it's the perfect compact foundation for you to carry around with you on the go because it has all your 4 steps that you need to have an even and long wearing complexion. Packaging wise is completely made of plastic. It has Genius written all over it. Once you open it, it has a sponge applicator, which I have been using quite a bit. That's why it's so dirty. Then you have the cream foundation because this is kind of like a creamy texture, and you also have a mirror right at the top. So for on the go, I find this really portable. It's quite compact, as you guys can see, and I love that. I just throw it in my bag and I can retouch my makeup throughout the day. Now the claims of this foundation, and I'm going to read from the back, it says, True Match Genius, 4 gestures in just 1 easy step, flawless complexion every time. Smooth skin surface like a primer, glides and unifies like a fluid foundation, covers imperfections like a concealer, finishes like a natural matte powder. Perfectly matches your shade, your skin, your life. It also has SPF 30, so by saying that, you guys know this is not going to be flash photography friendly because SPF 30 is quite high. So like always, before I get into the demo, I love showing you guys my current skin imperfections. Still the same, my skin doesn't really have all that much to cover. I still have some scars from breakouts that I had recently, but for the most part my skin has been really good. Now when it comes to application of this foundation, I tend to use the sponge applicator that it came with. I have not tried with anything else. I actually find that the sponge applicator applies the foundation pretty good. It reminds me of a Bobbi Brown foundation that I have, that I also use the sponge applicator. I never use a brush or a beauty blender. I just use this to apply the foundation. Now the shade that I have here is a 3W, which is golden beige, but my true match for the L'Oreal True Match foundation is a 4W. I find that it matches me perfectly well. Once it oxidizes, it just looks exactly like my skin tone, but unfortunately because the shades are very limited in this line, I couldn't find anything that would suit me best. So I chose this shade right here, which I'm quite accustomed to when they don't have natural beige or 4W in their foundations. I tend to always go through, I always choose 3W because I feel like it looks a lot better on me. And once it oxidizes, because I find L'Oreal foundations do oxidize, they kind of like just look like my skin. So as I mentioned before, this foundation is a creamy texture type of foundation. And because it's stated that it's a primer and concealer, I didn't apply anything else besides the foundation to really see if it works. Now because I have combination to oily skin, I will always set my foundations no matter what. Even a foundation that says it's extremely long wearing, unless it's just powder, I will always set my foundation. That is just something that I do. And I find that with this foundation, the coverage that you get is very light. If you have acne scarring, if you have a lot of discoloration, this foundation is not going to cover that because you will have to apply tons and tons of layers. And I feel like the more layers you apply, the less stable this foundation will stay. It's not going to stay in the same place, especially if there's a lot of humidity out there and heat, and with your sweat and everything, it's just not going to stay in place. So I tend to apply let's say 2 to 3 layers, which is a lot really. It's just because this foundation doesn't cover all that much, and I'm really trying to build coverage. I find that by then I completely stop because I feel like I'm going to look like a cake face. In the demo, you will also see that I'm trying to conceal my under eye circles, and I feel that it covers somewhat. However, if you apply too many layers or you really try to conceal underneath your eyes, it's going to crease. As I mentioned before, this foundation doesn't stay put, and if you try to use it as a concealer, it will crease. You will really need to be careful and apply a lot of powder to really make sure that you set the concealer in place, or else it's just going to start creasing. Although I don't have a lot of stuff to cover, I still feel like I have a lot of blemishes showing through. I don't think it's the wrong thing to actually allow your skin to shine through. I just feel like this foundation is not very forgiving. I'm not too sure if the camera and these lightings that I have here is going to pick up, but I don't find that this foundation is very forgiving. My pores are so large that I felt quite uncomfortable wearing this foundation to work, and that's the best time for me to try it out because I'm not going to remove the foundation throughout the day. I'm just going to soldier on and have this foundation the entire day on my face. But when I look at it, it does not forgive imperfections. My eyes are starting to show the under eye circles slightly. My pores are quite big, and I have really enlarged pores on the tops of my cheeks. And it also settles into fine lines. Another thing that I have to say is this foundation, you have to blot so much throughout the day. And bear in mind, I am talking only about my experience having combination to oily skin. I had to blot 2 hours into my day, 3.5 hours into my day. I was the entire day just blotting. It doesn't matter what I do, how much powder I set, this foundation will give you a glowy to dewy look, and if that's not what you're looking for, you will definitely not enjoy this foundation. This foundation sounds so perfect, and I feel like I would only recommend this if you have normal skin and you really don't have any imperfections to cover, because if you have a lot of stuff and you have dry, this foundation will cling to patches, and if you have combination to oily skin, it's just going to slide around. It's just not a pretty look. I am not impressed with this foundation at all, especially for the claims. Number one, I don't think you can wear this foundation without a primer. If you have enlarged pores, a lot of texture on your skin, you will need something to smooth that out. And this foundation, as I mentioned before, it's not forgiving. It says that it can work as a concealer. I personally don't think this will conceal if you have extremely under eye circles, like dark circles. That's what I meant to say. It's not going to cover them. It will cover them for a little bit, and then you need to keep retouching. So you're better off just applying your own concealer. And it also says it finishes like a natural matte powder, which it does, but that matte finish does not last for long. 2 hours into my day, I am blotting my skin, and I had applied powder on top to make the foundation stay in place. So 3 of those claims is just a no-no for me. And then when it says perfectly matches your shade, your skin, your life, I just feel like this is something that they put here to make to sell the product for somebody who's quite young and is still trying out makeup. You would definitely look at this and go like, yeah, I want to try it. But for somebody who's been using foundation for a really long time, or just makeup in general for a really long time, you will raise an eyebrow when you see that. If you only have 6 shades available, for sure you're not going to match everybody's skin tone. If you're lucky, you will find your shade available here. If you're not, then it's going to be a loss for L'Oreal. So for me, this foundation has definitely not worked. It was a disappointment, especially for the price point. This is not cheap. It's £12.99. L'Oreal True Match, the original foundation, is only £10. It's less than £10 depending where you buy it. It comes with a pump. Yes, it's not travel friendly, meaning you cannot carry it with you to work, but there's so many shades available that more than likely you will find that shade, that right shade available for you. So these are my thoughts on this foundation. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.